Martha Stewart sold us a version of life itself. Folded linens crisp enough to carve a glazed turkey, and gardens tamed into Fragonard Rococo obscurity. For many, she curated a world in which taste was the ultimate capital, yet still accessible. The Kardashians capitalized private drama into public empire. Even scandal folds into the economy of self. Much like Andy Dufresne, Martha crawled through a river of shit and came out clean on the other side. She became freer than ever before, and with better brand positioning. What could have been ruin became rebirth. Her fall stripped away the mask of domestic perfection, revealing someone brash and deeply human. Suddenly, her flaws and the decision to embrace them weren't brand breaking, they were brand deepening. Authenticity became her new leverage. That's the strange alchemy here. Polish attracts, but imperfection bonds. In psychology, it's referred to as narrative identity. We transform raw experiences into compelling story arcs that others can retell. Redemption, survival, underdog sagas. Brands live or die by the stories people believe about them. Jung understood this intuitively. He wrote about the persona, the mask we wear in social situations, not as deception, but as psychological necessity. The most powerful identity work happens when someone integrates their shadow, the messy, unacceptable parts they've been hiding, into their public persona. This is why redemption narratives hit so hard neurologically. When we hear stories, our brains don't just process information, they stimulate experience. Mirror neurons fire as if we're living the story ourselves. Storytelling literally rewires neural pathways, which is why we remember narratives over 20 times better than raw facts. When Martha reemerged from her own hero's journey, millions experienced that transformation right along with her. They didn't just understand her comeback, they felt the possibility of their own. The most effective self-presentation isn't selling perfection, it's selling integration. The courage to be whole, shadows and all, in public. That's not just good marketing, that's self-actualization. Personal branding didn't arrive with Instagram. It has been woven into human survival since the beginning. Cicero reminded us that reputation is merely the shadow of character. A recognition that the story you cast outward is never the whole of you, but it still shapes the world's response. Even scripture wasn't immune. Paul the Apostle may have been the first great rebrand, transforming from persecutor to preacher and syndicating his new identity through letters, the ancient equivalent of a viral content strategy. From emperors to apostles, from the hedonistic stage of Dionysus to the neon-hot underground ball culture of 1960s New York City, the pattern repeats. Personal branding isn't a corporate invention. It's deeply human, a way of saying, see me this way, as not just survival, but as persuasion, connection, and play. The only thing that has changed is the scale and awareness. You're writing a story, whether you know it or not only for others, but even more importantly, yourself. But here's where the archaeology gets interesting. For millennia, public personas required intermediaries. The church distributed Paul's letters, the theater housed Dionysian performances, the media machine amplified Martha's curated domesticity. Then came the internet, and suddenly the distribution channels belonged to us. What took centuries now happens in real time. A TikTok creator can rebrand from tradwife to feminist philosopher overnight. A canceled executive can pivot to wellness guru before the news cycle ends. The speed of reinvention has accelerated beyond human psychology's ability to process it. Ideas packaged in a product scale infinitely. Newsletters, frameworks, aesthetics, workflows. These are lighter than any object, renewable in a way no gadget can be, which is why the solopreneur economy feels inevitable. With AI co-pilots, one person can do the work of a team. We no longer subscribe to corporations. We subscribe to people. This is more than efficiency. It's survival. The industrial economy has left landfills and oceans filled with garbage, not by accident, but by design. We built a system where products are meant to fail, so we have to buy again, where durability is bad business and obsolescence is strategy. It's a toxic loop that keeps money flowing, but leaves us and the earth depleted and exhausted. To keep living this way is impossible, which is why a new kind of monetization had to emerge. Not one built on churning out more disposable matter, but on sustaining attention, creativity, and connection. In this system, the product isn't another object destined for a landfill, but rather a perspective or story worth revisiting. To buy into someone's identity is to consume renewable meaning instead of disposable matter, and perhaps that is the only way forward, to support one another in more imaginative waves, to shift from economies of extraction to economies of expression. But let's follow this to its logical end. If everyone becomes their own marketplace, what happens to the actual marketplace? When 50 million creators are all selling authentic lifestyle content, authenticity becomes another commodity. The very thing that was supposed to save us from corporate homogenization starts producing its own kind of sameness. The solopreneur aesthetic, the morning routine content, the vulnerable Instagram posts that follow the same emotional beats. We're creating a new kind of planned obsolescence, not of products, but of personalities. Last year's personal brand becomes this year's cringe. Maybe it's more about mattering deeply to dozens. This points towards something stranger than the attention economy, the intimacy economy, where the currency isn't views or clicks, but depth of relationship, where small devoted communities outperform massive shallow audiences, where the most valuable public personas aren't the loudest, but the ones that genuinely connect. Let me be loud and clear. It all comes down to ideas that resonate, tools that solve problems, and art that moves. A hollow brand collapses under its own lack of foundation. Here's what the critics miss. It's not just individual self-promotion, it's collaborative world building. When someone successfully brands themselves, they're not just selling their identity, they're creating a new category of human for others to inhabit. Personal brands are identity infrastructure, and they build new possibilities for human expression that others can adapt and remix. In this light, the productized self isn't about individual extraction at all. It's about cultural contribution. The question isn't, how do I monetize my identity? It's what new way of being human am I making possible? This is not dystopia. It's a mirror. It reveals what has always been true. We are narrative-consumed creatures, constantly curating how we are perceived. Only now, those stories scale. They can be subscribed to, purchased, monetized, and iterated upon. The niche isn't some narrow category. It's you, your full contradictory self. A personal brand isn't about boxing yourself in. It's about letting yourself be seen from every angle. The ancient Greeks had a word, eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but really meaning the good life lived in accordance with your deepest nature. The performance trap happens when we optimize for engagement rather than eudaimonia. When we chase what gets attention rather than what makes us feel most alive. The solution isn't less performance, it's better performance. Performance that serves your actual values. Performance that makes you feel more yourself, not less. The marketplace isn't out there, it's in here, inside all of us. And personal brand isn't something we need to build, it's waiting to be recognized. The work now is simple. Believe in yourself, baby. Because in the end, the most enduring product you will ever release into the world is you, and it has the power to transform. And it may just be the only way forward, helping to replace economies of waste with economies of meaning, to trade the landfill for story, and to make curiosity and identity our most renewable and valued resources.